anybody who knows me knows that Star Wars is probably my favorite IP of all time. And it kind of almost bothers me that I even use that word IP, but it really has kind of turned into that. It's not as much a overall story as it is a product, which really kind of bothers me. But not going into that part of it. Clone Wars is probably my favorite Star Wars. And then, given my age, that sounds kind of weird because, I actually saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters. I kind of remember that. I was a little bit young to remember too much of it. But for somebody, in my age range, generally you're not going to see too many of us choose the Clone Wars over the original trilogy. Maybe some of us, maybe the prequels and all that. But to me, Clone Wars did the best job overall of capturing the characters and telling the stories and making us feel like we're living in that world, probably more than any of the movies. But even with that, when we found out that Ahsoka Tano was going to be coming to live action and coming to Mandalorian, I was really excited. I think a lot of us are really excited. And now that I look back on it, and I kind of question why. Why was I excited to see Ahsoka come to live action? I mean, I loved her in animated form. Why did she need to be in live action? And I want to say, first of all, I think Rosario Dawson is an amazing actress. And she acted the heck out of the role and the script that she was given. And I know a lot of people, have problems with the way she acted in the first half of her series. But I think that was part of the script. I don't think that was her acting. Maybe we've seen her in so many roles where she's so much more lively than that. So, and then she was, after she became Ahsoka the White, she definitely became, a lot more energized. And so we know that that's what it was. It was a script. That's how she was supposed to be playing that role. But even then, I still never 100% saw her as the same character as what was in the animated forms, either Clone Wars or Rebels. It just, my mind just couldn't make that work out for me. And I was able to do that with, Anakin. I was able to take the live action Anakin and then see him in the Clone Wars and mentally be able to see that as the same character. But for some reason, I just couldn't do that with Ahsoka. And I don't think it's necessarily 100% just the live action part of it. I mean, what is her name? Ariana Greenblatt or whatever. I saw her more as Ahsoka than I did, Rosario. And once again, nothing against Rosario at all. Because I think she's phenomenal, but it just never 100% hit me right. And then we, kind of going off that, the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series, which I also liked, but didn't love as much as, I absolutely love the animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender. But the live action series just wasn't quite there. And the more I was starting to think, and I was, the last couple weeks, my mind's been kind of going through this, kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to say here. And I started thinking back, what are my favorite stories that have ever been told in any kind of medium that's got a actors, so whether it's live action or animated movie, TV series, or whatever. And Clone Wars, Rebels, Avatar: The Last Airbender are three of my favorite stories of all time. So that really does bring me back to the kind of question: why was I so excited to see Ahsoka Tano in live action? And I think, to be honest with you, the main thing with that and with Avatar: The Last Airbender is that these are stories that I absolutely love. These are characters that I completely love. But I know a lot of people, a lot of friends and family that I have that don't watch cartoons. And to be able to share those characters with those people, at least that's what I thought, could happen or whatever, since they're going to be in live action, I think that kind of excited me. But looking back, I think that was kind of a really crappy reason to be excited about it. And, one thing I'll say too is, to me, and I know a lot of people use the word cartoon and animation, kind of, animated series kind of in the same breath. For some reason, I've always thought of cartoons or a kiddie thing. SpongeBob's a cartoon. Arcane is animation, and to me, they're two different things. One is made for a little older people, adults, and all that, and one is made for kids. And Avatar: The Last Airbender, Clone Wars to some extent, Rebels, yeah. To me, those are animation. They're telling stories with real characters where something that happens in one episode, it still carries over to the next episode. And to me, you know, just bringing in those three, the three series, Rebels, Clone Wars, Avatar: The Last Airbender, three of my favorite stories, like I said, of all time. And then uh, this year, I happened upon, one of my buddies introduced me to Hazbin Hotel, and I absolutely fell in love with that show. I love musicals. I love, really good storytelling with great characters and stuff. I love great emotional moments in storytelling, and Hazbin had all that for me. And then a couple weeks later, I sat down, and people have been telling me for the last couple years I should watch Arcane, and I just never got around to it. I went to sit there and watch one episode before bed, and let's just say at 4 a.m. I finally just had to say, okay, I'm gonna have to finish this tomorrow because it's 4 a.m. and then I gotta sleep, which just tells you that Arcane absolutely captivated me. And once and that started making me think, you know, would I want to see a live action version of Arcane? And the answer is absolutely fucking not. Not even close. Because they would just not do it right. It wouldn't have the same feel. The things that made that such a great series just wouldn't be there. And then, Has Been Hotel, I don't know how you did me, other than eventually having a Broadway musical based off of it, which would be kind of cool. But as far as that, just want to work for an anime or a live action series anyway, so I don't think we even have to worry about that. But that then got me thinking, what is it about animated series that makes me, appreciate those just a little bit more? And that kind of got me next onto the thought of, you know, should people making, really fantastical stories, should they be looking to animate it and just saying screw live action? And I think that the answer is yes. My favorite story that's never been put into, medium like movies or any of that stuff is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And ever since I listened to the audiobooks on that, I've listened to that series twice all the way through in audiobook form, which I've never done with anything before. So, it's just great, absolutely phenomenal storytelling. But as soon as I got done, the first time listening through it, I looked to see, whether or not there were any plans for any kind of movie or anything. And my thought at that point, and after seeing Game of Thrones and seeing, the great storytelling in that, is that Mistborn needs to be a series. It just cannot be a movie. But then when I'm looking into it, it looks like that is the game plan, or that was the game plan, which hopefully it's not. How the fuck do you do Mistborn in a movie format? Like who are the characters that you cut out? What are the moments, the relationship moments that really make that story? What of those do you cut out of that story to put it into a movie? And I think I would hate it. Probably the one that that I comes to mind for me when I'm really kind of looking at, thinking about this is Ender's Game. I don't remember too much about the book Ender's Game except for the way it made me feel when I was in eighth grade. So when I went to watch that movie, I was excited because I wanted that feeling again. But once again, with Ender's Game, the movie, you never got a chance to give a shit about the characters. You never cared about the relationships. So when there were moments that you could tell were written to have a payoff, when they came, there was no payoff because we don't know them. We haven't seen those characters together enough to care about those moments. And in Mistborn, that's what would happen is there would be big moments that in the books really got you emotional that you just be like, I don't give a fuck. We've seen those two characters interact twice together, so who cares? And then the thought of having like maybe the first book be three movies. Do we really want that? Do we want a even if they did it 1 year, the next year, and the next year, would we really want to see that? And the answer I think is no. I want to go through the first book of Mistborn, and I want to be able to see it play out over one season. 9 episodes, 10 episodes, or whatever it is. And so that really got me just realizing that at least for me, I prefer to see most fantasy type stories in a series format first of all, and then probably animated. I Mistborn, some of the scenes that I have in my head that they would do in that, I just don't. Man, that the effort and the time that they would have to put into making that look good on live action would just be ridiculous. It would take away so much of the time that could be spent on just making the story work overall. In an animated form, I think they could do that better. Um, and not only that, but there's the whole casting. Jinx is a perfect example of this. Can you imagine them trying to find a live action actress to play Jinx? Would they have gotten the right actress? I mean, would they have put all their focus on getting somebody to look the part, and then not enough emphasis on the best actress? And I think when you're looking and trying to cast a live action version of a character that we have in our mind, or we've seen in a video game or animated, or mentally you've seen them in a book, um, when you're having to spend so much time finding the right look, or that's what your focus is, a lot of times you don't necessarily end up with the actress or the actor that's going to do that part the best. And I really think that Brandon Sanderson, who I'm sure is going to have a lot of input in how his books get turned into a TV series, a movie, or whatever. I think I did see an interview of him talking about Arcane, so I'm pretty sure that he's seen it. But I hope that when he was watching it in his mind, he's imagining his world in not as that style, but maybe not that exact style, but in the animated series format, and imagining that, and hopefully he would take that and realize that a movie version of that just isn't the right way to go. Um, so I guess it's just kind of a, I started off this conversation more, it was going to be more about Arcane. Um, but I think it's more about, just overall storytelling, and what's these authors and game makers and, live action series, or I would say animated series creators should be thinking when the possibility of making a live action version of their story comes up, and how maybe they just need to say no. Maybe I won't, and with my story, I won't get as big of a fan base, or big of as many eyes on it, because it's animated and Western, in the United States. Over here it's animation is for kids. In Japan it's not that way. In Japan everybody watches animation. But if they just said fuck it, I'm happy with the eyes that I have on my on my creation, and they appreciate it, and I don't need to go out of my way to find somebody to do a live action where people are probably not going to enjoy it that much. And I know that One Piece apparently, and I haven't watched One Piece. I will probably watch Fallout. I haven't gotten around to that, but and I know that those are supposed to be really good examples of when it does work. But how many times does it not work? And how many times can we look at, recently some, great examples of, animated versions of different characters and stories that did just absolutely great. So yeah, that's all I got for this. let me know what you think in the comments. If you're a Brandon Sanderson fan, if you like Mistborn, would you want to see it as a movie, TV series, animated, live action? Do you think that the Ahsoka series would have worked better if they just would have kept it animated? I think the answer on that is a resounding yes. And do you have any stories that you would like to see adapted in kind of an arcane type style? I mean, not the exact style, but kind of that tone and that much care and love put into it. Let me know in the comments below, and everybody have a great day.